Hello, losers. Speaking of that, I didn't really felt the urge to make this video. I thought, I guess I'll just make a video for it, but I feel like I shouldn't really be making this video because it's kind of already like beating on a dead horse. But I'm just talking about it because a lot of people that are from the Gulf of America keep telling me on the internet, especially on X. They keep telling me, oh, you should talk about Caitlin Clark. Like, I'm not super into basketball, but I know a little bit. I know a little bit of NBA, and then there's the WNBA. But I didn't really think about the WNBA or even really was aware that it existed until this this lady, Caitlin Clark, I think her name is, something like that. Yeah, there are some greats from the past, don't get me wrong, and there's some great players from the WNBA. But if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark, you guys wouldn't even be known. Like, she might necessarily be the best of the best, because I have no idea since I've never really followed the WNBA. But all I can really say is she's more like a Michael Jordan or maybe even a Larry Bird, depending on some degree. Because first, basketball was catching on as a sport in general. And then what ended up happening was Larry Bird came around, popularized the sport. But what got it into like the big three as like a mainstream mainstay was Michael Jordan. If it wasn't for a player like that, first of all, Larry Bird, he's a great player. It's just he made the sport known. Whereas Michael Jordan, he made the sport popular. Like, he made it famous, in other countries as well. Like Canada, like Mexico, like obviously China. And because of other players, it created many generations of great players, such as Steph Curry, and most importantly, at least of the current generation, LeBron James. Oh, yes. Anyway, these WNBA players are mad because she's successful. Like, yeah, she's successful because she's a good player. That's what happens when you're successful. Now, I understand they do overpay a lot of players because they're in the league. But, come on, man. Like, why can't you just... It's competition, I understand that. But it's like, it's bad PR when you're mad that, oh, your league is getting recognition because of this one player. Like, yeah, that's what happened with Michael Jackson. Jordan, not Jackson. Jackson is a singer. I confused myself. They're both MJ, so there's that. That's probably why. But yeah, Michael Jordan. There were many other players, such as Shaq, and some people like to call him Little Mac. He was like a 5'3" guy, and he was the best player from like the late 80s and a lot of the 90s for the NBA. However, for the WNBA, I don't really know much of it, and I don't know how much it's long been around. I do kind of care because it seems to be working in some way. But the problem with this is the WNBA has a history of being like a crybaby league, Because if you're a crybaby league like that, you know what happens? You're going to be like the MLS in the 1990s, okay? That's where your popularity is going to go. You're going to be like the MLS in the 1990s when they just had to rework everything because some of the other leagues at the time failed off, so they had to go there. And then there was like a big steep downhill, even though we had a World Cup in 1994. And you know why that is? Because they were a crybaby league at the time. But then in the 2000s, they started to advance, and they're like, oh crap, we gotta stop doing this. And then eventually it carameled out, and it started to rise in popularity again throughout the 2010s, just enough that it's still around, and today it's actually relevant. Whereas WNBA, it might be going through the same route, and they might have to create a whole nother league just because of it, you know? Just because, oh, this or that or whatnot, you know? But still, hating on this one lady does not make sense. Now, I could understand if you didn't like a specific team for whatever reason, but on a specific player, it just feels a bit more personal. Imagine if, like, in the 1990s, back when MJ or Michael Jordan was in the peak of his prime during the early 1990s. Imagine if the NBA were to insult this player and knock him down. He would have not have been as great as he was. You know? Like, if it wasn't for him, basketball would be nowhere near as popular as it is today. You know? It wouldn't be the second greatest sport within America. Some may say number one if you're, a big fan of it. You know? At least in terms of you being a fan. You know, but if you look at it from popularity, not exactly, but for you it is because, you're a big fan. That's what I mean. Well, anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna really play with this subject too much, and what I mean by that, I'm not gonna try and entertain it too much, because if I do, I just know some motherfucker from, like, I don't know, Weirdland, like the freaking god dang, I don't know, Washington, not DC, but Washington, or Washington, DC, I guess, is gonna come up to me and be like, how dare you criticize the WNBA? You're a sexist. You're an evil fool. You're a linkerty stickerty. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. You know? Like, that's how they're gonna be. They're just gonna be like, you, how dare you? How dare you criticize my girl? That's how they be acting. Well, anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna end this video here because, like, why would you want to try to ruin potential talent that could be your version of Michael Jordan, Like, that could be the player for the WNBA, because in the NBA, the traditional NBA, at least what most people consider as the NBA, Michael Jordan is the measuring stick. Now, LeBron James is the guy who made that stick noticeable, but the guy who created that stick, the guy who basically made it because of Larry Bird's success, was Michael Jordan, okay? And that's where it probably should be in the WNBA, but the WNBA specific teams is what I mean. They're all on the head like, our team sucks, so that must mean, we gotta make excuses for being terrible. Like, bro, if you're terrible at your sport and you're the professional, get better at it. That's all you have to do. Quit complaining. Admire the glory that you can get from your league. And just hang it all out, man. And just let your talent speak for itself. Rather, like, turn your talent into your skill rather than trying to go, oh, this player or that player. Like, yeah, there could be this player or that player then, but then who's going to be this player or that player now or in the future? You know? So it's like, why are you complaining right now when in the future, if you do good enough, you could be the great player that everybody talks about? You know? It doesn't matter if you're in the NBA or the WNBA or any sport, for that matter, male or female or even mixed. Just look, if you want to be the best at it, you must first become the best at it, okay? Because if you want to be the best, you got to become the best. And you got to do whatever you got to do, your sport requires, your game requires. And in this case, it's basketball. So find a way to practice your 3s and 2s, and definitely find a way to perfect those 1s on the slam dunks, you know? Because that can be really creative if you can make an original dunk, you know, that kind of thing. But it's whatever, man. Anyway, I'm going to end this video, so just remember, stay ugly.